The long-awaited Synod on Synodality has begun in Rome after much fanfare and a lot of breaking news, including 2 sets of dubia. Now, those are questions to the Pope, formal questions from his cardinals, and the release of Pope Francis's follow-up to his environmental encyclical entitled Laudate Deum, Praise God. Reporting from EWTN Studios in Rome is senior correspondent for the National Catholic Register, Edward Pentin. Ed, thanks for being here. I want to start with this bombshell revelation. New formal questions, dubia, submitted to the Pope by 5 cardinals, Burke, Brandmuller, Sarah, Ignace, and Cardinal Zen. They asked Pope Francis to clarify Pope's points of doctrine and discipline, from ordaining women to blessing gay unions. We're going to get into all those issues in a bit with the cardinals. But how did this shape the opening of the Synod or shift the thinking in Rome? What was the reaction?
Yes, this obviously came out of the blue for many people, and I think it really set the, I think it clarified things for a lot of people who perhaps weren't aware of the discussions of the Synod and weren't aware of the controversies among these key issues that they raised in the dubia. So I think that's what the purpose was, or rather the effect of this dubia has been to really shed a light on these issues that were otherwise not really focused upon. So that I think has been the main issue here.
Yeah, I mean, the Synod as a whole has been a sleeper in the media, but this certainly got the world's attention when you saw headlines, the Pope softens Church's position on blessing gay unions and all the other, kind of headlines that came from this questioning between these cardinals and the Pope. The Pope also at the same time released Laudate Deum. This is Praise God, his sequel to the environmental encyclical a few years ago, Laudato Si. Why release this now, Ed? And what was the thinking here on the very eve of the Synod?
Yes, I don't know if it was really connected with the Synod, but it was certainly, I think, to time with this COP28 meeting that's coming up and the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I think he wanted to time it with that and try to increase the urgency to take action against climate change. The Pope, as we know, has been very keen on this issue. And has been trying to lead the way in that respect. I think there's concern, of course, that he's perhaps giving too much attention to this and not to other issues which are also, some would argue, more important or more urgent, moral issues particularly. But anyway, he has. This is what he's wanted to do, and so it's very much a sequel to, of course, Laudato Si. But it's not an encyclical; it's an apostolic exhortation. So it's not as authoritative or as theological as the encyclical Laudato Si.
Yeah, it's sort of a papal opinion. And I mean, it's not on faith and morals. So the question is, how much credence does one give it? Certainly, you have to read it with respect. But whether the policy prognostications there should be followed or not, I think that's up to everybody's conscience. But Edward, before we let you go, you wrote a column this week comparing the family synods from nearly a decade ago to this Synod on Synodality, at least in process. How do you think those synods are related, and how do they predict the direction of this Synod?
Well, it's very interesting looking back at the family synods, Raymond, because the methodology was crucial at that, and it was because there were people have criticised the methodology of those synods that it led to Amoris Laetitia and a lot of the disruption and the upheaval that followed from that, and also theologians who've used Amoris Laetitia to bring in dissenting opinions, whether it's to do with contraception or homosexuality. So it's interesting to see how the controversies over the methodology of the synods and family led to that disruptive fruit, as it were, and that we're seeing it again with this synod, and actually with all the synods. They've all been, to some extent, having that problematic methodology, and the key part of it is sort of listening to everyone, it seems, but except those who are upholding orthodoxy and the Church's magisterium that's been taught for 2,000 years. So, it's that side seems to be banished, while every other school of thought or opinion or ideology has been accepted, and that goes right back to the synods on the family that we've seen, and it's really opposite to, or very different to the synods under John Paul II and Benedict, who would affirm doctrine first and then look at how that teaching can be better applied to today's world.
And as you point out, those were synods of bishops, only bishops who would vote and reflect on those whatever issue the Holy Father was pondering. Now we're talking about, in the words of Pope Francis, everyone is welcome. Well, if everyone is welcome, but you have an invited guest list, I mean, I'm not welcome. Many of these viewers aren't welcome. People going to the Latin Mass aren't welcome. Very faithful Catholics who are pro-life aren't welcome.
Right.
Family advocates aren't welcome. So I don't know what everybody welcome even means, much less the methodology at play here. But it's clearly, in the words of Cardinal Zen, we'll get into this later, there is a manipulation happening in the way this was structured and the protocol within this synod that I do think causes one to reflect on what is going to come out of this and what the intention is. Edward Pentin, as always, thank you for being here. We will be checking back with you in the days ahead, and you can follow Edward Pentin's reports and columns on X at Edward Pentin.